Fantastic. That's the way. All right, next we have what we like to call our own personal Duracell rabbit. His name is Jim Phillips. He never runs out of energy, and that can be quite annoying. Please do welcome him with the same energy that he refuses to abandon, Mr. Jim Phillips.
Although I have recently got some batteries from Poundland, and please don't bother, they just run out all the time. Stick with Duracell. That's absolutely brilliant to come on stage after that, because it feeds perfectly into what I'm going to talk about. But before I actually talk about it, a little correction on this TV. I think half of the proceeds actually go to running the movement in terms of buying the materials and things. Yes, we still live in a monetary system. So, yeah, do donate generously for the TV. Also, there's an exhibition in the Brockway room just down the hall. So in the break, please do all go and pollute the room and fill your mind full of utopian communist propaganda. Yes, my name's James Phillips. I'm the human Duracell bunny. So, which is a contradiction, but never mind. I give lectures here and presentations in London monthly at the Elixir Bar, and also set up this organisation called TZM Education back in 2011. So I want to just tell you how I came upon that and how I came upon the movement briefly. I watched Zeitgeist Addendum in 2008, which gave me the sort of slap in the face treatment, as I'm sure it maybe gave some of you if you've watched it. But in true scientific sense, I went on to do some research. Because I didn't want to, go full in on it. I pretty much had all my questions answered by the time I came to Z-Day 2010 and watched the very eloquent and wonderful Ben McLeish give a talk. The room was filled of people who I'm seeing here today. I really expected to see a bunch of sort of dreadlocked hippies in sandals going, "You can really do this, man." You know? And to find a room like this, I thought, I think this idea might be slightly bigger than just lentils and marijuana. So, so that's the time I decided to take the plunge and really, really get involved. And it occurred to me almost as instantly that what we have to do is go for the low-hanging fruit. And that is children. You know, they still have their minds open to receiving new information. And so, really, this is a train of thought that we're here talking about. Lots of questions have been asked about transition. The real transition is a transition in thinking. If our thinking doesn't back up the model that the movement advocate, then there is no model, and we can just carry on with, like, death monopoly. So, pretty much if it's a train of thought, then where does that train of thought take root? Essentially in how we're educating children. And that's a very, very important thing to note. So TZM Education has a couple of purposes. The first of which is to show the flaws in the current educational model and what changes we would need to make to it to start to instill the train of thought necessary for a resource-based economic model. But also it's got an activism section for Zeitgeist movement members to get involved with so they can go into schools, which is precisely what I've been doing for the last couple of years. And I have to say my scientific experiment results are back, and it's much, much better than anything else I've ever done for the movement. Kids just seem to get it. You're hitting a captive audience. And it's a really fantastic and rewarding thing. So the title of this talk is Delivering a New Train of Thought to the Next Generation. You see, kids don't have those same barriers. They don't have those same lockdowns, culture lag, as Ben talked about. They just care what works. So I was standing at that exhibition that hopefully you'll all go and take a look at one time at a secondary school, and must have been a 13-year-old boy walked up beside me, and he said, "Whoa, you mean to say we can do all this?" I went, yeah, we can do all of it. I went, "Why aren't we doing it?" He said, "I haven't got enough money." Money's done. I was like, fuck me, that was quick. So that's just a microcosm of what you get, and it works for all the different age ranges as well. I've talked to primary school kids, and in fact, the talk I'm going to give you is more towards that end of the spectrum, but really you can deliver it to anybody. You see, rather than talking about the doom and gloom of what are we going to do about these rich financiers that are, you know, ruling everything and stuff, actually, I think the main important thing is to focus on the positive solutions that we actually have at our fingertips, and then let the kids just demolish it on their own. You know, that's what I think. So, the challenge that I'm going to be setting for the movement is for every chapter across the world to go into just one school before the media festival kicks off in September or August sort of time. Just go into one school, no more, just one, and I promise you you'll go into more, because it becomes addictive. Because it's a fantastic thing to do. So just as Lee was talking about prior, you know, about getting involved and things, this is one way in which you can do it. So, I'm going to give you that presentation. So, I want you to all pretend that you're children, okay? And that you don't know about any of this wonderful information. Obviously, this talk is going to be amended slightly for when it goes into schools. So it doesn't have the title on the bottom, but pretty much it's going to stay the same. So, in true pretending that you're all kids fashion, hi kids, how are you all doing? Say hi, James. Hi, James. Very good, very good. You needed to go up an octave though, try again. Hi kids. That's better. So I'm going to talk to you about a few things that I think you need to know today about the possibilities the future might hold. But first of all, I have some questions, just to check that we all agree on a few things first, okay? So, what's the best way of farming food? Because we kind of need food, kids, it's pretty important. So, I'm going to speed this bit up if that's okay. Kids usually say tractors. Okay, so I'm just going to go through this. Yeah, that's right, tractors, okay. How about water? What's the best way of doing water? Well, the water goes up and then it comes down and then it goes down the mountain and all that good stuff. And then it goes into quarries and feeds our taps and all that good stuff. Fantastic. What about clothing? How do we keep our clothes clean at home, boys and girls? Washing machines and tumble dryers. What about housing? What's the best way to do housing? Well, there's builders, of course, and they pull in loads of stuff and build it, and that's really cool. What about transport, getting around? How did you get to school today? Oh, I took my bike, and probably most came in the car. So yeah, we can use cars for short distance. You go on holiday with your family on your plane. The train might take you to London, and the ferry might take you to France, and all that sort of stuff. And the energy that we need for all of this, we get from dinosaurs and stuff that died a long time ago, and, you know, oil and gas. Clearly, this is the best way of doing things, right, kids? Yeah? No? Actually, no, it's not. It's not at all. It's not even close. So let's start with food. What's the best way of producing a lot of fresh food for everyone on Earth? Well, there's a few, but we're just going to focus on one called hydroponics, and a particular way of doing this, but I'll just explain what that means. It's where you grow plants in nutrient-rich water, and so you don't need any soil, which means obviously when you're spraying water out all over the fields, you lose loads of water out in the soil. And if you use this particular method I'm going to talk about, it actually uses 99% less water, boys and girls. So that's pretty cool. Now, what I'm actually talking about is this cylinder over here with this wheel, okay? And as the wheel gradually turns, all the plants need to fight against gravity. So they're either pushing on the side or pushing up, or when they're upside down, they're trying to get up towards the gravity. And that means that they can grow 5 times as fast as they usually do without pesticides or herbicides. Now, another great thing, you see that light in the middle, right? Rather than have the lights over the top of the plants laying like that, you have it in the middle so that it does all the plants at once. So you don't need as many lights, not as much energy. Okay? If we grew all of these in a 1 acre floor space, 10 stories high, that's 10 floors, we could produce as much food as 400 acres of farming land. And we don't need any pesticides, we don't need any herbicides going off of the fields, going into the rivers, polluting the fish and polluting the water you drink. And remember, in farming, 70% of all fresh water we use is in farming. So we just saved 99% of water, and we didn't even need to use it for all of this farming as well. So we're doing great. Okay, speaking of water, there's a few better ways that we can do that. So, something we're going to have a problem with in the future, because although I know the planet is covered in water, only 1% of it is drinkable, and we've been a bit stupid in how we're using that, as we just went through. So, these are some of the ways we can desalinate water from the ocean, so that makes it fresh and drinkable. We can also design our houses so that our sinks and showers actually feed the dirty water into the toilet, so that we're not flushing the toilet with clean water, because that's pretty stupid, okay? But even better news, when we flushed it, we can just clean it and drink it again. Isn't that cool? We all get to drink our own wee. Now, if you don't like the sound of that, boys and girls, then you better not want to be an astronaut anytime soon, because that's what they have to do. So, staying with water, we can also produce fresh drinking water from hot air, which for your audience is what comes out of politicians' mouths. Not that I'd say that in a children's presentation. And we can take that humid air, you know, like it's hard to breathe when you sometimes go on holiday in a hot country. That's because it's got sticky, it's like got water in it and stuff. So we can take that and we can make it into fresh drinking water. And also, you see this bottle on the right here? That bottle is called a lifesaver bottle, and if you dip it into a dirty stream that people have been pooing and weeing in, and give it 3 pumps, you get fresh water out the other side. Okay, so the 780 million people on this planet that don't have access to fresh drinking water, usually in hot countries, if they had one of these machines and those drinking bottles, wouldn't be a problem anymore. So, clothing. How do we keep our clothes clean? Well, using something called nanotechnology, which is basically using tiny robots to change matter or stuff. We now have clothes that you could pour, for example, Hershey's chocolate sauce on, and it will just run off. Okay, as if it wasn't even there, leaving no trace. This is called a hydrophobic surface, and you can use it on nearly anything, so maybe in the future there won't be any helping Mum clean the kitchen. Mum and Dad clean the kitchen, that's pretty cool, isn't it? As for housing, we can now 3D print homes, okay, just like your car is, and then move them to where they want to be with very little need for human work involved. And it's a very dangerous job, that, so it makes sense to try and get humans away from it if we can. And it uses a lot less materials as well, because just like your cars, if we had to build them where they are, we'd have to pull everything from everywhere to build them, whereas we just take it to the factory, build the house, pump it out the other end. Makes sense. So, dome-shaped buildings like these from the Venus Project are much stronger and use far less materials to actually build. Now, the reason you use a dome is because it sort of self-reinforces itself rather than building up and then worrying about how to actually hold the thing up. You sort of make it sensible from the beginning. Now, also, we can use something called the thermocouple effect, which is 2 dissimilar metals in the skin of the building, and if we charge them one way, they'll repel heat, and another way, they'll pull it in, which means we don't have to use air conditioning units and radiators nearly as much. Now, bear in mind that 50% of all of our waste, in how we use non-renewable waste, that is, comes from building homes. It seems to make sense to do it like this. And also, in the future, we can build cities on top of the sea and under them as well now. So. Travel. So for short distance journeys, we can still use cars, but we don't need to worry about them crashing into each other anymore, boys and girls, because we now have cars that can drive themselves. Okay? They've done 300,000 miles in the United States, in towns, cities, and across the countryside, and they have not crashed once. 1.2 million people die on the roads on this planet every year, and it doesn't have to happen anymore. So the next time Mum reverses into something out the driveway, just tell her about Google Car. Now, as for long distance travel, you might think planes are the fastest way to go, but actually they're not. Maglev trains are the fastest way that we know of how to travel on this planet. And the way they work is there's a train, we put it on a line suspended by magnetism, which means it doesn't touch, so there's no friction, there's no rubbing, stopping it from going really fast. And if we put it in a tube and suck all the air out, so that there's nothing stopping it going forward, these trains can travel at 4,000 miles an hour, 8 times faster than planes. They use 2% of the energy and none of the dirty, horrible smoke coming out the back of them. Now, if global warming's a problem, and planes are the biggest contributor to CO2, it might make sense to use these instead. Now, energy holds all of this together, okay? Now, we currently use oil and gas, which pollute our atmosphere, and once again, we actually simply don't need them anymore, as we have more than enough clean, renewable sources of technology to produce energy. Solar is one of them. The energy from the sun's rays hitting the surface of the Earth is roughly 10,000 times our energy use. Now, if we use nanotechnology that I talked about earlier in this, and as well, we could have space-based solar panels. So that's solar panels that sit out in space and face the sun all the time and beam energy down using infrared to stations on the Earth as it turns around, and we don't need to worry about cloud cover and all of those sorts of things either. And with all of these sorts of different technologies, and we look somewhere into the future, not too distant future, we could power the world 1,000 times over. Wind energy, if positioned in the right place, could provide 20% of, just 20% of what wind actually produces would power the whole world. Tidal power could provide a third of all of the energy this country needs. Wave power could provide half of all the world's energy needs. And geothermal technology, which is mining, basically using the heat inside your planet, by pushing water down near it and then bringing it back up again, producing steam to basically produce energy, means that we could provide all the energy we'd need for 4,000 years and more. So why are we not using all this great technology, kids? You see, us adults, we talk a good talk about sustainability in the environment and sharing and the importance of addressing such issues as poverty, yet we have all of the tools right at our fingertips and we're not using them. It's like having a nail and a piece of wood, and there's a hammer sitting just over there, and we say, you know something, kids? We just need to hammer that nail into the wood. We really do. We really, really do. Like, really. And they're like, well, why don't you go and grab the hammer? What hammer? Yeah? So you see, this is what we need to start thinking about, kids. Over to you. We adults obviously don't know, otherwise we'd be doing it. You're the future. You can have any future you want. You're newer to this world. You bring new eyes to old problems. So maybe we're missing something that you might be able to see. What is it? Just one thing to add. You'll notice that I don't go through anything. I don't name the Zeitgeist movement. I don't. If it truly is about a state of mind, then the labels don't come into it. It doesn't matter. It's a train of thought. So that's why this doesn't, I'm here to promote the Zeitgeist movement or anything like that. This is what it's about. It's like Jacques Fresco once said. He said, people, if they were aware of the current state of technology, wouldn't put up with this shit. I happen to subscribe to that. If you don't have the blockers that you people have, with all due respect, which I had. Yeah, kids don't have that. I'll give you just one more thing before maybe one more thing before I shut up. There's this. I went to my daughter's primary school to take that exhibition in to talk to them about these sorts of things. And I had 3 different age brackets, around 7 and then going up. And the questions I got in the first age bracket of the 7-year-olds, of the first 7 questions, I must have had to say I don't know to at least 4. That has not happened in an adult Q&A in a very long time. I don't think it's a case that children are just naive. I think we've forgotten something. That's what I think it is about being, a child. I think that's where it is. They have the ability, they ask the technical questions. They're like, so how do you take that maglev train under the ocean? I heard that it's really pressurized down there. And I'm like, shit, they found me out. So you see what I mean? They just go straight to those questions, the questions that really matter. Those are the questions that really matter. Everything else is just bullshit. Okay, so get out into the schools. And one more thing. If you're going to phone these schools as well, you don't go in there going, I'm from the Zeitgeist movement. Oh, Zeitgeist. Oh, right. What? Go in there and say, does your school like science? Well, yeah. Does your school promote sustainability in the environment? Well, yeah. So when should I come in with my science and sustainability exhibition and talk to you about it? Well, I suppose the end of this month sounds good. Great, see you then. So thanks very much.
Mr. Phillips. Isn't he a lovable little cutie? Would you let him near your children? I hope not. Because then they won't become obedient workers. We're now going to have a 20-minute break. Don't mess it up and be back at 10:02. And then we're going to have a video on critical thinking from Stephen Oberauer, who's over there. Thank you very much, and see you in 20. Thank you. Okay, a couple of announcements again, unfortunately. I know you're getting bored of my voice now. Desmond Kilroy from the Center for the Advancement of a Steady State Economy has allowed our slight overrun to become steady state by cancelling. So he won't be here. You may issue your thanks via his email address. I'm just kidding, he's not well.
You'll have to say this again.
Yeah, no, they just hear it or don't, it's fine. So whatever, you were talking at the time, you miss out, you miss out. It's like herding cats. Of course, that's what we want. We want people to be herded like cats and not like cattle. Couple of other bits and bobs. If you haven't had a look at the TV, now you can't until the end. So anyway, we're going to jump over Mr. Kilroy's presumed endorsement of a steady state economy, hopefully leading one day to the utopian dream of a resource-based economic system. I'm not putting words in my mouth, except that I am. And so instead, we're going to move on in just a minute to Stephen Oberauer's presentation on critical thinking, which is a video that he has created. First off, we have Tom Williams, who's decided to be as far away from the mic as possible, who wants to issue some thanks, some warnings, and probably a couple of threats. So pray that it isn't you that he has in his sights, and he will lay down the law, rough and resource-based as he is, and here he is now. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Sorry, this is a bit predictable, but it needs to be said because things about motivation. These things don't happen by accident. Our websites don't get run by accident. They get run by people in the real world doing this completely for free and completely because they feel this is a worthwhile thing to do. So I'd just like to thank Shane Osborne, who runs our website. David Jarrett, who runs the service for the website. I'd like to thank Eddie Grammer and all the volunteers who volunteered to help today, all the people collecting tickets, they just volunteered just to do this. Also, I'd like This is going to be really quick, just another quick one. It's Mark Lieberman, who runs all our street activism and stalls, who ran earlier today. Cliff Begley, who's been around for a long while, helped running our meetup sites. Thanks to Cliff. And all our Facebook admins. And I'd like to say a special thanks to Melissa. That was her first public speaking event, and I'm sure you agree she did fantastic. And all our guest speakers, and particularly, not because he's a celebrity, Mr. Raoul Reynolds, but the support that he and the band and Shikari give to the movement has been fantastic, and you'll see why that is later on. So thanks to all, and thanks to you guys for coming. You know, it wouldn't be worth it. Cheers.